Hello and welcome to our second last Tribal Council video for Survivor Hamilton Old Meets New. We are here with April, Graham, and John, and as you can see, April, for the second immunity challenge in a row, and really the last two immunity challenges of the season, came out clutch and won the ability not only to earn herself a spot in the final two, but also choose if she was going to take her husband, Graham, or her longtime tribe mate, John, to the final two with her. Obviously, she's going to make the best decision for her game, so we're going to chat with them a little bit. We got the jury listening in, or a lot of the jury listening in here, and we'll ask them a few questions, and we'll get to April's decision. So, April, talk to me a little bit about the immunity challenge, the format, and kind of how it was going for you, and what it felt like to pull out the win.
Well, we had kind of gone through, we talked a little bit before the challenge about what you might throw at us. And when did you send out the message? You told us it was going to be like a series of 3. I can't remember what time of day that was, but I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be a combination of a few things that we've already done, but obviously different questions. And I got myself really hyped for it. I think I annoyed the heck out of Graham. But I actually bombed the first 2 questions pretty badly. Like I almost went out on the first question. I was like on my 3rd try before I sent it in. So I started out pretty bad, like pretty late. And the second question, I think Graham and I pretty much got it at the same time. We both had like pen and paper here, and the way I do those ones, I kind of write everybody's name down. I cut them off into like little sheets, and then I just follow the rules. Like, okay, which 2 people are like, you know, have an exact number of spaces, and you know what side they're on, and I start with that and kind of work my way back. But I think I was still like a little bit after Graham on that one. What's that?
A minute and a half.
A minute and a half. So he got in first. Like he got his first 2 questions in really, really quickly. And I mean, obviously we don't know what's going on with John, but the last question went really fast for me because I spent the last 2 or 3 days putting together a spreadsheet. I'm like, okay, now's the time to actually do this and pull some stuff off the website and kind of go through my head, like what possible questions could Mike ask us, and basically took a snapshot of the whole room and put it into a spreadsheet, color coded it, and did that instead of working.
So when you got your first 2 attempts wrong, were you just going to wait and see if you could wait and find out the right answer before, like from Graham, which is fine, it's a legitimate strategy, but to find, or would you have tried again and risked getting it wrong and being eliminated?
Yeah, like I would have tried again for sure. To start out the challenge too with the triangles, I printed it out. Like I like to print them out and then circle the intersections. That's how I did it. And my printer took a dump, and I had to reinstall my whole printer before I could start that challenge. So I thought for sure I was screwed. I'm like, game over.
And unbeknownst to you, you were against the slowest challenge completer in the history of the game, in John, who answered the last question 27 minutes after you did. John, you know, we talked a little, you liked that type of triangle question, so I imagine you were going to be pretty fast, but I also knew that you were just going to wait. You were just going to get the right answer no matter how long it took, and hope that the other folks got wrong answers. So what was it like for you answering the questions? Because it felt like you'd gone missing for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was trying to count it, and when I got 80 the first time, and then you're like, no, then 81, then I'm like, oh crap, like I if I get this wrong, like there's no hope, right? Like it's like I didn't even give myself a chance to get to that final question. So I counted it like a few times, and then I got my wife to help me. You know what I mean? Like if everybody else can use their wife, I might as well. But then she counted it twice, because I was like, look, if I get this wrong, there's no hope, right? So then, and then you were like, are you there? And I was like, I swear to you, I was like, man, am I doing something wrong here? Like this is exactly like the circle question. And I was like, man, I'm counting. I guess I missed it. And then when I was doing it on my iPad, you can't see them sometimes, like if you put a little mark there, right? So if you put it like, and those areas when there's 3 intersections and those little triangles
close together,
that I would just miss, right? So then, yeah, so I figured, okay, I'm already so far behind. Mike's already like, John, are you there? Like, do you exist? So I was like, okay, there's no point in me like taking, like, there's no point in me rushing anymore. Like, I already know I'm like way far behind. And he's like, so I just figured, I'd try my best and go from there.
And then you and April both, well, I'll shoot it to Graham for a second. So Graham, did you and April work on the spreadsheet together, or did April do it herself?
April did pretty much all of it herself. There were a few areas where we, like for our personal stats, where we had to work on them separately. But she did all that grunt work herself.
And then your answers were completely different on the last question.
So in the spreadsheet, there was a lot of text as well as numbers. And when I received the question and I knew how I was going to get the answer in the spreadsheet, to make it easier for myself, I hid a bunch of columns and rows. But then when I tried to do formulas, they weren't working because there was a lot of text in the hidden columns and rows. And so I ended up having to sum up some of the rows with formulas and then add the rest by just on my calculator. And then because I did that, I ended up adding numbers twice. And then I was way over. But then as soon as I tried it again and I deleted the columns and rows instead of just hiding them, then I got the right answer. So I'm like, ah, crap. But because my answer was after April anyways, I realized it didn't really matter because my number would have been the exact same as hers.
Yeah, same as John's. And somehow, because of my post, maybe you all seem to get 184, even though the number should be 186. So I don't know if anyone's pinpointed where that, where I messed up a little bit, or if you guys just somehow missed 2 votes. But either way, you all figured the same answer. In April, you got yours in first. So when you read the post and you saw that you'd won, how good did that feel, knowing that was the last community challenge and then you've been through so much this game?
It felt pretty good, and like every time a challenge comes in or the results come in, I have read the post before scrolling down to the bottom. But that one, I scrolled right to the bottom because I just had to, like, it was so intense. I just had to get it over with, and then I read the post afterwards. I just wanted to know because John took so long. I was like, shit. And after I was done, I said to Graham, I'm like, I'm done. This is the number I got, but you need to count your own. Like, take your time because I could have screwed something up, right? And I think you did take quite a bit longer than me. But when you had announced the challenge done, like 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, John's going to get the right answer. Like, and I went through the website again a few times and I kept getting a different number. So I didn't know. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Well, at the end of the day, John being super slow is what made the difference. If he had got the right answer, it wouldn't have made the difference. But because he got the same one, it was the time ended up making that making the difference for you. John, when you saw that April had won, were you basically like, okay, well, I'm out, or did you figure there was anything you could do in terms of describing the numbers to April or trying to help make the case that it would actually be smarter for her to take you than Graham?
I think when I saw the post, I think it sucked the most that we got the same number. I think like when you said it was 186, I was like, oh man, I got a strong chance, right? And we didn't talk about it. Graham asked me, I was like, let's just wait for the post. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I got 184. I was like, it wasn't, and I didn't go over. So I was like, well, maybe they got 182 or something. And then I think just like when she got 184, I was like, oh crap, like just like a kick right there, right? Like, oh, I could, if I'd taken that, I already took so long, I could have taken even that much longer. But yeah, I had an open conversation with her, and I think you guys said it last time with Jordan in his. I think like we can talk about each other's resumes, right? I think April's a smart girl, so she can sort of figure out like where the votes could go. I think with Graham, it's a lot more randomness, right? She might not know, or votes that she might think she might have if it was against me, kind of thing. But I think at the end of the day, she had a big formula. She told us today. It was a pretty open conversation because like I was talking to Graham even before this. Like, we both know, like, taking either one of us is going to be a close vote either way. I don't think it's a slam dunk. Like, oh, this, if I take this person, I win. If I take that person, I don't win. I think it's going to be so close, and I think that's where she was sort of figuring today. So we talked about it. There were some points we talked about, but yeah, I tried the best I could.
Graham, how do you analyze kind of the jury and how you or John would, impact April's chances?
That's a good question. It really depends on each individual jury member and whether they're planning on voting for who they like the most or who they think played the best game. So it's really hard.
And that could be the same. That could be the same person.
It could be, and so, but it's really hard. It's really hard to know unless you ask everybody individually. How are you planning on selecting the winner? But I feel like not part of the game. I don't know. It's kind of just you look at somebody and you weigh whether or not you think that they're gonna vote for you or vote for someone else, and if you have enough in your favor, then you can feel pretty confident. But I mean, just like John said, we made our own formula, so maybe she'll be going off of that. Who knows?
So April, coming to you, you obviously know what you're going to do. I don't know yet, and Graham and John don't know yet. But I think you can be pretty honest about kind of how you how you analyze it, what your results were, or what pros and cons there are for Graham and what pros and cons there are for John. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think initially the first thing I did was look at the jury and who would potentially vote for who in the situation. So I did a spreadsheet, with April versus Graham, April versus John. And my disadvantage is I came into the game and I don't know anybody. Like, the only people I really know on the jury are Jordan and potentially Graham. I haven't met anybody else in the game, and both Graham and John have really strong connections in the game. So for me, with either choice, there's a lot of question marks, right? Because I just don't have those relationships with everybody in the game. And then the other thing I did was I kind of went through, but I made like a scorecard for each player using, like how many tribal councils we've been to, how many votes we've had cast against us, rewards, all that stuff, and kind of put a formula together and scored everyone based on their stats in the game, kind of encompassing everything. Okay, like here's kind of the points we can talk about for or against, right? Who's been voted out before, so there's that you kind of subtract from the score in the formula and certain things that make it better. I mean, John and I both have been to a ton of tribal councils, right? And, the first portion of the game, Kubar didn't go to any, so Graham doesn't really have any real stats from the first half.
Before the tribe swap, yeah.
Yeah, and then he was voted out.
But I do have my position in the game from before the tribe swap.
What?
Like the weekly stats?
Yeah. I didn't look at the weekly stats.
Of course you didn't.
Of course I didn't. But I did add in immunity challenges one, whether it was like the tribe or individual, right? So I did add that in.
But just, forget the math for a second. Like, where do you think John is the strongest on the jury, and where do you think Graham is the strongest on the jury?
You mean with like what groups of people?
Yeah, exactly. Like what do you think? Their best, like the area where they each cause you the most, cause the most risk for you.
I think with John, he was just very tight with his alliances, and that seems like something. If I take him with me, I don't know if those people would even consider voting for me, right? So he's got that. With Graham, he's pretty much played with everybody because he was playing the middle for a while. So there might be a couple of people that he hasn't had interactions, with as intensely, but he's got connections like everywhere.
And was this a pretty good exercise to go through because especially the formula, because it also helped you start to think about what your messaging is going to be to those jurors?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's good. You got a bit of a head start. So, John, what's your pitch to April to choose you?
I think the one to choose me is that, like, I don't know as many people as Graham. I would say Graham, I've told him this, and I've even told April this. Graham's played like a perfect return from exile game. He was literally on every side of the vote, aside from the, I guess you could say, pretty much the Chris vote, right? Even though he was on the right side, but I mean, every other vote he was voting with the majority, unless there was an idol involved. So I think that says a lot, right? And that means, like, he made the big moves, he made the splashes, he somehow was able to cut off both alliances, and nobody said we got to get rid of Graham, right? So I think he literally played a perfect game, and I think that will, that's one reason why I don't know if you should take Graham.
Graham, how do you respond to that? Obviously, the perfect votes that, the voting record that he's talking about is, from the beginning of the merge, you were right every time, except, John and James had idols played for them. But April was right on every single one of those as well.
Yeah.
So,
well,
how do you, go ahead.
I'm flattered by what John said. I think that he's not necessarily wrong. But in doing that, I also burned some bridges. So I had like a really strong relationship with Jordan and Paul, for instance. And then a decision that I made ultimately ended up getting Paul voted out. So I imagine, and that it would be fair for Paul to hold that against me. And I think the same goes for me working with the Bastards. Like, I was tight with them for a while, and then I kind of just turned my back on them a little bit. So it kind of sucked, but I think that's something that April actually has in her benefit, and even John would have as well.
Do you think, though, that, because you're sitting here at this point and potentially in the final two, that you can make the case that leaving those people behind, voting Paul out, using your advantage against Chris, that they'll see that as strong gameplay versus a betrayal?
It really depends on how they're planning on voting. And so we can't really know that. I mean, if we expect, if we assume that everybody's going to vote for best gameplay, I think that could be advantageous for me a little bit. But again, I'm not sure if that puts me above John or not. And I mean, as far as April's concerned, like, she's had an amazing game, so I think she's gonna have a tough choice tonight, and I think that both John and I would give her a run for her money on Friday.
Is that how you see it, April? You see it'll be pretty close no matter who you pick?
Yeah, I think so, but for different reasons on both sides.
Fair enough. So, John, this is your 20. So go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I've also thought about, it'd be kind of cool to have two newbies at the end of the game. But the other thing people have talked about is like, oh, husband and wife at the end of the game. Like, either way, it's like, it'd be kind of fun.
And
I agree.
On Friday for the jury vote, so that'd be pretty cool too.
Yeah, and you theoretically, you guys would both be here, and we'd have to figure out how to do that. So, John, this is your 22nd tribal council of the season. It's April. It's your 21st. So it's basically the same at this point. John, what if this is your last one? What will you remember the most, or what will you take away from playing this game for the first time?
There's a lot to take in. I think the biggest thing was a lot of fun. We got to hang out with with all my buddies, reconnect on a level like we haven't connected before, and then making a run at the end, right? You know, everybody expected me to go out, so I think that was cool just to find a way to get here, right? Because if I didn't win that immunity challenge, I'm pretty much gone. And then even with Jordan, it was do or die. I lucked out there, and then made it all the way here. So it was a good time and a lot of fun.
I don't know if you lucked out. I think that you earned all that, but you know it's been a long run, and you know theoretically none of the votes against you have counted, so you've done a pretty good job staying out of the spotlight. April, what about you? Obviously, you're going to make it through this tribal council to the last one, but you know what do you take away from this first time playing? What's your main takeaway?
Yeah, I think my main takeaway was also connecting with people. I had a ton of fun working with Ian. You know, I've spent a lot of time with him, but Ian, I haven't had the opportunity to, so I got to know him quite a bit more through the game. And I wish he would have been able to last a little longer because he was so fun to work with. But like for me, that's one of the big things, was just connecting with people. And also because there's quite a few people in the game, I'd heard Graham talk about the last time he was playing, so I kind of knew a little bit of the backstory there. So it was kind of fun to actually experience some of that for myself.
And thank you, April. And so finally, Graham, you know, this is obviously, you've played Survivor Hamilton a bunch of times before. This is certainly the game that's been the most up and down, and you've had probably the most of a roller coaster for you. What's this one been like, and have you enjoyed it as much as other ones, or has it just been, you know, constant stress?
Well, okay, so the first one that I played, I didn't really even play. I can't even remember.
You still had emo hair, I think, in your picture.
For sure I did. I can't even remember anything that I would have done in that game. I feel like the game started and then I was eliminated right away. Last time, it was a lot of fun. It wasn't that much different than this time, but I do like that the way you put the challenges together this time. I like that better than last time. Less, you know, scrambling all throughout the day or worried all day having your phone like loud as possible in the middle of the night, just not potentially miss something. It was fun, but as soon as I was eliminated last time, I kind of stopped paying attention to the game. I guess I just wasn't as invested as certainly this season, because when I got eliminated the first time this season, I'm like, I'm still getting paid attention. This is great. And now I'm going to put together a spreadsheet and I'm going to be paying attention like crazy. I'm going to keep track of everything. And it's going to be a blast to watch April go through. And then I got a chance to come back in. So I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Now I'm going to be busy. So no more spreadsheet. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Getting to meet new people, connect with old people again. Challenge myself with some of these challenges, which was a lot of fun. So I don't know. I think just fun is the word that I would use to describe it. That's the key takeaway. It was a blast.
Awesome. So, and again, like I've enjoyed playing this game with you guys as well. It's been a long ride, and we only have basically a couple days left here, and I really appreciate you all taking the time, especially John and April, because I can remember, barely I can remember, but months ago, you know, multiple days a week going through all those tribal councils and how exhausting that was, and to see that you guys are both still here after that is pretty amazing. Okay, so April, we're going to get to the vote. What I'd like you to do is you message me who you want to vote out. So this will count as basically you're voting somebody out. You message that to me. I'll write it down and reveal it. Graham, shield your eyes. Well, it's better than you. That way you don't have to say it. If you're voting Graham out, you don't actually have to use the words.
You need to get away out of striking distance.
Striking distance? Who do you think I am?
Oh. So it's the person that I'm voting out.
Out, yeah, that you're eliminating.
All right. I hate this. Okay.
And we'll see if April has avoided a really awkward 4-hour drive on Friday from Chatham to Oshawa. Okay, so we're ready to go. Okay, everybody ready? As per April's decision, the 28th person voted out of Survivor Hamilton, Old Meets New, and the final member of our jury is John. So as expected, but not set in, or not fully expected, John, you've been eliminated. Graham and April, we got a husband and wife. Final two. Congratulations.
I'm not gonna
That's all I
lie.
have to say.
I was pretty sure she was gonna take John.
It was a tough decision. It
Oh,
was
man.
a tough decision. And it has nothing to do with the fact that Graham is my husband. So
It's a game decision. I like to hear that.
even though he threatened me.
With what? With what? Oh, I did threaten her that I wouldn't vote for her.
Yeah, I told you to say that. Anyway, okay, so congratulations. Enjoy tomorrow off. You have nothing to do tomorrow, game related, except start to plan your speeches and anticipate what questions you're going to get asked. John, great game, man, awesome. You were, other than Brian, my other pick to get to the end, and I think I even said that earlier in the game.
You told me that.
So you stick around. Everyone else, goodbye. And enjoy your jury video with Chelsea and Kyle tomorrow.
Great game,
I
John.
might pop in.
Great game, guys. We'll talk.
Final three.
All right. Take care, everybody.